All right, let's just jump right in. When you picture a big organization, like your university or the company you work for, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Is it some rigid, formal structure with a rule for everything? Or maybe you think of it as this calm, collaborative place where everyone gets together and agrees on things? Well, what if I told you that for a lot of places, neither one of those is even close to the truth? Back in the 1970s, a theorist named J. Victor Baldrige came up with this really powerful metaphor. And let's be real, it's a little bit scary. He said that to get what's really going on, you have to stop seeing organizations as neat little flowcharts. Instead, you need to see them for what they often are: a living, breathing, and yeah, sometimes screaming political jungle. See, Baldrige looked at these older models, the super formal bureaucracy and the cozy collegium, and he said, nope, this just doesn't cut it. It doesn't explain the reality he was seeing, which was full of competing groups, constant deal-making, and yeah, power struggles. And that idea is the absolute heart of what's called the political model. It's the lens we're going to use to make sense of all this chaos. So, with that, welcome to the jungle. Seriously. In this first part, we're going to totally challenge those old ideas and get a solid handle on this new, much more realistic way of looking at the places where we spend so much of our lives. Now, the most important thing to get about the political model is that it's not saying politics are bad. It's just a neutral tool for understanding what's going on. It basically says, look, an organization is an arena. And in that arena, you have different groups, departments, student organizations, different teams, and they're all naturally competing for things, for influence, for a bigger budget, for the power to call the shots. It's not about being cynical. It's just about recognizing these competing interests are real. And that leads us right into our next section, a new political playbook. Because look, if you can actually understand the rules of this game, you can play it. You can navigate it. Trying to pretend the political side of things doesn't exist is a huge mistake. Figuring it out, that's the real key to getting things done. Of course, like any way of looking at the world, this model has its ups and downs. The big upside? It gives you a really powerful way to see where the power actually lies, and it can force a group to get real about its goals. But there is a downside. It can really shine a spotlight on how divided things are, and you have to be careful because it can end up shutting out the voices of people who don't already have power. Knowing both sides of this coin is absolutely crucial. Okay, so if it's a game, what are the rules? Let's break down the core dynamics you have to be able to spot if you want to understand the political landscape around you. First, and this is a big one, you have to get this. Conflict is not a bug, it's a feature. In this model, conflict isn't a sign that everything is broken. It's a totally normal, even healthy part of life. It's just what happens when you get a bunch of passionate people with different priorities in the same room. It helps you find allies, it shows you what the organization really cares about, and it gets people to take action. So if conflict is going to happen no matter what, you have choices in how you deal with it. You can try to collaborate to get a win-win for everyone. You can compromise and meet in the middle. You can accommodate the other person's needs. You can just avoid the fight altogether. Or you can go all in and compete to win. The real skill is knowing which strategy to use and when. All right, this next idea might sound a little cynical, but trust me, it's so important. It's called interest convergence. Basically, it means that people team up and support each other's causes when it helps them out too. If you can figure out what each group really wants, you can start to predict who's going to work together and why. And this right here, this is a fundamental truth about how things work. Most of the time, most people are not paying attention to most decisions. Why? Because they're busy. They've got their own jobs to do. And this widespread inactivity creates a huge opening for a small, super passionate group to have an outsized impact simply because they're the ones who show up. So how do you know when an issue is about to catch fire? You keep an eye out for what are called attention cues. Think of these as the early warning signs. It's the whispers you hear in the hallway, the grumblings from a department head, the flyer you see for a student protest. These are the signals that all those inactive people are about to wake up and get involved. Which leads us to the big prize. What is everyone fighting for in this jungle? It all comes down to power. The power to influence, the power to get resources, and ultimately, the power to make decisions. This is the currency of the entire system. And power isn't just one thing. It's not just your job title. That's what we call legitimate power. It can be coercive, the power to punish someone. It can be based on your expertise, the information you have, your connections. It can even be referent power, which is really just about how much people like and respect you.
The point is, power is everywhere, and it comes in a ton of different flavors.
I absolutely love this quote from Alice Walker because it gets to the heart of it. After seeing all those different kinds of power, you might start to realize, hey, I've got more of this than I thought. Your unique knowledge, your relationships, the info you hold, those are all sources of influence. The very first step to using your power is just recognizing that you have it in the first place.
Okay, so theory is one thing, but let's see how all this stuff plays out in a real-world mess. We're gonna go on a little safari with a case study, a tale of two colleges, and a very, very political plan to merge them. So here are our main characters. You've got Dr. Perez, the president of a community college that primarily serves Hispanic students. You have Governor Daniels, who's all about the state's economy. Then there's Dr. DeSager, the new president of a bigger university, and Melissa West, the governor's appointee who's obsessed with efficiency. See, each one has their own agenda. And here's the spark that lights the fire. The governor wants to merge Dr. Perez's smaller, diverse college into the bigger, mostly white university. The official reason they give? Financial efficiencies. But here's the catch. The merger would destroy Greenville's special status as a Hispanic-serving institution, which is a massive blow to their whole identity and their mission. Now, this whole plan is being talked about quietly, behind closed doors. But then, someone from the inside leaks it. And just like that, a private chat becomes a very, very public fight. This is a classic political tactic, and it completely changes the game. The reaction is instantaneous. The students and faculty at Greenville, an interest group whose entire identity is on the line, they mobilize. All that inactivity we talked about, it flips to intense activism. They take their protest right to the state capitol, making it absolutely impossible for the people in charge to just ignore them. So what happened? Well, it wasn't a clear win or loss for either side. Faced with all this political heat, the governor's commission did something brilliantly political. They punted. They deferred the decision for 2 years. They kicked the can down the road, probably hoping the controversy would just fade away. A classic non-decision decision. So, after all that, what does this actually mean for you? Okay, let's talk about your move. How do you take this political model and actually apply it to your own life? When it comes right down to it, once you accept you're in a political system, you really have 3 basic choices. 1, you can decide to participate effectively, using what you know about power and interest to actually make a difference. 2, you can try to manage the situation from a distance. Or 3, if you realize a particular fight just isn't for you, you can choose to bow out gracefully. The knowledge itself is what gives you the power to choose.
And that really brings us right to the final question. This political model, it's not just some abstract theory. It's basically a map for the world that we all actually work in. It's not always neat and tidy, but it's real. So the only question left is, now that you have the map, how are you going to navigate your jungle?